the argument against atheism is not that they don't know anything. Many of them know a great deal. The argument is that in an atheistic worldview, they can't account for what is known as the preconditions of intelligibility, or how you can know anything at all, which proves their worldview is incorrect.
Ugh, this old tripe again. Atheists need to account for some arbitrary aspect of existence, or Christianity wins forever. Hi, my name is Scarlet, and I'm an atheist and a skeptic, and I am back from my long trip away, and I'm excited for the next round of videos and some collaborations I have going on. So, before we get back to that guy from Answers in Genesis Canada, I have a couple of announcements. So, collaborations! Here's a preview of some art provided to me by a YouTuber for one of those collaborations. What do you think? I really like this avatar. Now, you might be wondering, does this actually look like Scarlet? Of course it doesn't. Well, I do have blonde hair and blue eyes, and I have a black vest I really like, and I do get this expression on my face from time to time. But my skin is not as clear and smooth as this, and hasn't been for a very long time. Anyway, I'll let you think about who this YouTuber might be who provided this avatar to me as I get to something else that is out and available right now. I did some voice work for David Watches. His channel is not about atheism, but it's about world building. And if you want to hear me pretend to be a voice actor, click on the link in the description below. After you watch this one, of course. I do the intro, and I come back for a line in the outro as well. Hope you enjoy that. And as for a bigger collaboration and the avatar in question, this weekend I will premiere a video I did with Dark of All Trades, and he will have one as well. What would we call that combination? Dark Scarlet? Not bad, not bad at all. Be on the lookout for that. I had a lot of fun working with Dark, and I think we did some mighty fine work. And thank you, Dark, for this avatar. Like I said, I really like it. Here I am in the northwest of Ireland at a watchtower. So cool. Alright, I have more things planned for this summer, but that's the blibbity blab for now. Let's go deal with this AiG Canada presuppositionalist dumb shittery.
All worldviews make truth claims to support their system.
For the sake of this not being a million-hour video, we'll just say fine. 1,000 fines. Everybody, I think, has the notion that their view of the world is correct. Truth claims, you know. Why else would they think what they think? It just seems banal to me. But creating a worldview is more than just making truth claims. A worldview is a set of beliefs about fundamental aspects of reality that guide our understanding and thinking and determine what we think we know. And I want to stress that a worldview is a set of beliefs, not a single belief, because, dear listener, I'm sure you know where the fuck this is going next.
And the argument against atheism is not that they don't know anything. Many of them know a great deal.
Ooh, so generous of you to acknowledge that. We appreciate that nod to our intelligence.
The argument is that in an atheistic worldview, they can't account for what is known as the preconditions of intelligibility, or how you can know anything at all, which proves their worldview is incorrect.
And boom, there it is, an atheistic worldview. I think we need to pull out our correction pelican on this one. Atheism isn't a worldview. It's one belief. Remember I said a moment ago that worldviews are a set of beliefs? Yeah, atheism isn't a set of beliefs. I know Christians like to think of atheism as some kind of bizarro their religion. Whatever they think, atheists have the opposite. So there's God, no God. Basis for morality in God, no basis for morality. Explanation in God for everything, no explanation really, just scientific formulas. And this is wrong. Theism is the counter to atheism. And like there are lots of ways to be a theist, there are lots of ways to be an atheist. Atheism in and of itself doesn't account for anything, and frankly, it's not supposed to. This demand that we constantly account for things is just unfounded. Now, someone might argue that everyone has a worldview, including atheists, and sure, and maybe Calvin? I think this guy's name is Calvin, but fuck it, I'm not looking it up. His name is not important. So maybe you think that Calvin means that any worldview that includes atheism can't account for how we know anything. And that is wrong in a different way. To account for knowledge, you have to go to a field that deals with knowledge. Certainly, philosophers have been dealing with this question since there have been philosophers. But here in the 21st century, we can turn to sciences to account for how we know things. So how do we know things? We evolved from other animals, and we can observe that other animals also know things. Different from us, certainly, but they do. They map their territories, they know where to find food, these kinds of things. We can look at the findings of psychology and neuroscience to see how the brain works, how we develop cognitively from babies to toddlers to children to adults. Well, most of us do. AiG seems to be working with their toddler brain. I'll come back to this notion of how brains work in a moment, but let's get back to the pre-supper idiocy.
The mere fact that they can declare certainty argues against their worldview.
Okay, which of you is out there being all certain and everything and giving away our atheist game? But seriously, I don't know atheists that claim to be 100% certain of anything. I just don't see a good reason to believe in God. I'm not out here saying there's absolutely no way some God doesn't exist, but I don't see why I should believe in one. I think Christians have this line about atheist certainty for a couple of reasons. One, it just makes us seem unreasonable. We're just stubborn and stuck up and full of ourselves. The second, I think, is projection. Like, they're the ones who are certain God exists, and their version of God, no less. They're the ones that say, like Ken Ham did once, that there's no evidence that would persuade them to not believe in God. They're sure, and that's it. All right, let's finish Calvin out.
The bottom line is this. In order to know anything for certain, an individual would either have to have all knowledge or be empowered by the one that has all knowledge. You'd either have to be God or be created by God. But either way, God would exist.
Now we're just saying stuff. To know anything, you have to know everything or be empowered by a being that knows everything? Gonna be honest, that sounds silly. I want to go back to talking about how we know things because presuppositionalists seem really perplexed by this. Our brain, though, is not segregated from the rest of our body. From the time we are born, it is processing sensory data. What we see, feel, hear, taste, smell. And our brain is making connections for us. There are areas of our brain that guide us to pay attention to activities and objects in our environment and to catalog them. What is helpful or harmful, good, bad, enjoyable, painful, and so on. Our brains also evolved to be ready to use language. Other animals also use sounds for different purposes, but our language is complex and can express things that are not here now. They can imagine potential futures. We can communicate our stories to each other orally. We also make memories so we can keep things in our brain and then we can pass those things along. We've developed a written form of language so we can transfer knowledge that way too. So as our brains develop, and it takes years, think about how babies and toddlers grow, we're able to read or look at diagrams and take in that information as well. So, in short, we know things because we are beings that evolved with a brain that knows stuff. The stuff that helps keep us and our communities safe and alive and hopefully reproducing. And by the way, I am, of course, avoiding all the fruitless discussions about whether we are in the Matrix or a brain in a vat imagining reality or we actually came into being yesterday and our past is a dream. Those are fun things to speculate on when you're hanging out high or whatever with your friends. But there's no evidence of any of those, too. They're unknowable. There's no way to get to that. To the best of our knowledge, not any kind of certainty, just our best understanding. There is a physical world, and we are physical beings experiencing it. I don't feel like those discussions about where brains in vats get us anywhere in terms of understanding how life works, and I'd rather just move on and try to figure out the things that are useful to us. Before we end this discussion, I want to point out that Calvin's tactic here is to try to dictate the terms of our belief, or non-belief in this case. A lot of Christians want to decide what atheists must demonstrate or account for to their satisfaction. This is more posturing for other Christians, acting like they have better information than anyone else. But none of us needs to abide by their terms and conditions. They need to demonstrate God. We don't need to account for all of reality. The fact that we don't understand something does not advance the case for God. And of course, there's a lot of stuff we don't understand yet, and that's fine. Maybe someday we will. Maybe we will die out before we figure it out. But none of that establishes a God. And by the way, Christians don't have this level of accountability. Any story about being moved at a service or hitting rock bottom and reading the Bible is fine for them. They don't need to understand how God works or why he does what he does. They don't have to explain everything. God can be mysterious. Finally, there is a reason why presuppositionalism is thought as proof of God by assertion. They just say God is needed. They can't demonstrate it. Oh, the world exists. God. We are sentient. God. Morals exist. God. It's not the way things work, my dude. So what are your thoughts on this presuppositionalist crap? Put it in the comments below. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, and do all the YouTube stuffing. Pour out your YouTube libations to Algorithmo and his consort Algorithma, and may they bless you with wonderful YouTube recommendations. And if you like what I do, you can buy me a coffee. That link is also in the description below. And don't forget, be on the lookout for my collaboration with Dark of All Trades this Saturday and Sunday, June 29th and 30th. See you then.